We now return to Let's Play Zeus. Well, unfortunately, it looks like whatever graphical thing happened, it's just continuing to happen. I almost feel like maybe it's the size of the city. I definitely have not built this much stuff before in a city. I don't know, I guess I'll have to open another map and try again, but I hope it hasn't just bugged out the game for me somehow. But anyway, I think we're pretty much at the end of our series here. I think it is time to kind of fill in the last little cracks and make do. So, I guess I can do a little bit more of the culture over here. That's kind of the last area that I need. We've got podiums, we've got gyms, we have theaters. Now see, the coverage is what gets me. Does this coverage actually calculate the amount of places that are being met, or is it actually talking more just buildings available in general? I don't know, I guess we will find out. Now, it does talk about needing the actual destination buildings, not the production buildings, but we can kind of see that I'm not maintaining the destination buildings as well as I could be. So I guess we'll just kind of put down a little bit of both. Put down a gym, I suppose, on this side. We'll do a drama school. Probably don't want to put it over here if I can really help it. In fact, let's go ahead and put a theater, say here. Can maybe afford a podium over here. Gift of olive oil. We'll do a drama school. Looking at that, maybe I don't want that there. Let's take that off for a moment. I will do a podium. And what, that kind of looks like a college would fit there, actually. So what I'm thinking maybe is just put another agora here. Doesn't, oh, probably because of that. There we go. So let's take a... Oh, we may as well put in tax collector too. So we'll do a tax collector there. We'll do... I could do a podium right next to her. Alternatively, probably going to need a little bit of beautification. I'm going to have to put an infirmary down. So we need to put a little bit of beautification there, and I guess that means that this thing is over one too many, so we'll have to do... I mean, I really don't need to be putting in more housing, but just to kind of give this a sense of purpose over here, because otherwise it doesn't really have much. We'll do a food vendor up in here. And you know, I could probably get away. I've been kind of avoiding putting another granary down just because I don't want it spread around. But I could. I just don't know what that would do. I mean, it would probably alleviate a lot of this, obviously. But that was kind of also... And it would be a very long way. Now I'd have to connect this up, which I could do. And perhaps I will anyway. Let's just do that for the sake of it. Oh my god. A little bit more. There. Criminy. Now I'm going to have to block this off, of course. Prevent any wandering. I'm going to go ahead and put one of these here. Then we'll fill in some other things. This should only be an accepting one. It is. Still looking at quite a few people in here. I'm going to put a few of those down. We're going to grab park, bring that in, like so. I cannot tell. It is employed, but because of the graphical glitch, so that's interesting. The gym, yeah, so if it got put down beforehand, before this happened, then it has them, but otherwise it doesn't. And this is the thing I was experiencing at the very, very beginning of this series when I was doing the GOG version of this game. Graphically, for whatever reason, these were not showing up. So that's kind of disappointing that we have reached that issue again here at the end. Let's just fill in. So, now that we have that, let's kind of look towards our walls here. So I guess I could bring the wall all the way down there. And then I'll just run along the backside. So that's where we're going to be tearing this off, and we will finally... It needs to be both there. We will finally have a enclosed and enclosed city. It does go right up the back side of those. Perhaps to offset potential appeal problems. Really, actually, I should have just put something in there instead of putting the structure here, but I have so many of these damn things. I know I didn't want to spam them, but really, what else are we going to do? Something like that. Okay, maybe it's time to move this inspector in. I can move the inspector. Well, the inspector's gonna have to come in both ways, isn't it? Oh no, it's not gonna matter. Never mind. Undo that. Put the inspector back where they were. Because I cannot get someone to go to that tower because there's no way to get to it. And I said we don't need to put towers in here. I can just put them decoratively. Obviously, no one will be able to get to them. I really don't think they should require a road. It doesn't make sense. If they can walk along the walls here, why can't they just go and man the towers from the walls? I don't know. So this definitely does seem to be working. We're not getting that here. I guess I did make this one secondary. But whatever, perhaps they will be fine just taking from here. Now these need water. Right. Well, I can put water down, sure. And then also put one final building. I need the college. And I feel like I should probably leave a gap. Just leave a little bit of gap right there. Put the housing right there. And we can do a little bit more fill-in. Can we... I could maybe get a fish pond. Well, I would like to leave a little bit of the trees in here, even though it doesn't serve much purpose. Just kind of have that... the natural part versus the curated part. I'll just leave that a little bit grassland. So I can get one more in there. And that's really where we're at. So the park, bring that in. Not that one though. We'll do a little bench there at the end and some ionic column going right there. That fills in, and this remains as a hovel. I have plenty of fleece, so I'm going to go ahead and bump that up. Even though for people we're really not consuming too much more. Right, so other things that I can be doing. I can pretty much got that all taken care of. Still 80 people to come in too, so really we're pretty much stuck at around 6%. What do I have here? I've got marble. I guess I've got a lot more of this. I do think I need to do some wood. Let's bring another timber mill into play. And then I guess a olive press over here, kind of by the food. This is the dirty, dirty food because you're getting all the smoke and smog right from the foundries and the forges, and all this stuff is being consumed right there. It's not so good. But we'll do another one of those perhaps. Take a little bit of the Doric columns, run that up the backside, park it up. Okay. So the walls have pretty much filled in now. Everything should be good there. This really ostentatious back walkway. I feel like that should definitely have been more up here, but I really couldn't do a whole lot here. I mean, I guess I could have taken out a boulevard and just turned that into avenue, but no, that still wouldn't have been enough. Still would not have been enough for putting horse ranches on that side. I don't know, this whole thing kind of turned out a little funky. I mean, I think it looks neat. Still kind of blocked in, rather than the organic thing that I was attempting at first. And that's just sort of the nature of the game, really. I mean, you can't really get away from this in Zeus, just because of how the game mechanics work, and you know, how it's structured. It kind of... I mean, it kind of limits you in that respect, especially the walker-based system. You can't just put things all over the place and have them be a part of the city, you know what I mean? Like, the theaters actually have to be attached to the housing block. You couldn't just have a theater and therefore everyone has access to a theater, which mechanically is nice, and you know, I've always... in the series that I've done and the games that I've played, I've always gone to top level because it's really more rewarding to do so. You get more tax revenue, you can fit more people in, it's just more efficient to have larger housing blocks, or smaller housing blocks of larger, more evolved houses than it is to go any other way. So it's not a game where you really can do something like this, and it's probably largely because this is not necessarily a free build game. I mean, it's definitely not a free build game. It's not necessarily a free city building kind of game. You do play missions. That is kind of the whole point and purpose of the game. Obviously, in something like this, you're setting your own goals. And speaking of which, why don't we go ahead and start bringing some of our allies into the fold? Just because, why not? I mean, we've got everybody else in here, so let's just go ahead and grab our friends and make them pay me in tribute. I mean, they're sympathetic to me anyway. They just they're okay. I've won a few games and everyone gets happy when I win, but then they're just kind of fair weather friends, so we'll just bring them along. Enlist all with my overwhelming army, and man, this is quite the army. That is quite the army. We've got cavalry, we've got hoplites, we've even got some navy going in. +2 heroes. I mean, I feel like Thebes, witnessing the conquest of Mycenae, should probably just volunteer.
My horse is getting restless. I hope an enemy comes soon.
Probably just volunteer to be my vassal. But, yeah, I mean, aside from this unexpected glitch, and a few of the frustrations with the way pathing is decided, and I mean the thing that went on here, where there was that binary decision of going left or right with the athlete, and then as soon as I put in a gym here, the introduction of another one walking in threw off some kind of timing so that this did not produce an athlete that would walk this way. That was an interesting thing. I'm sure there is a reason for that in the programming, just the way the algorithm is built and all, but there's a little bit frustrating in itself. So, I mean, obviously the game definitely rewards loops and straight lines, and loops for the common housing, straight lines for the elite housing. That is the easiest and best way to make sure everything gets coverage, and also to exploit game mechanics, like, for example, the ability to have the the actor walk up here, so you don't need to worry about an actor's studio in order for these to cross and get them. Likewise, having the gym, well, I guess I got the gym here, but at least for this house, having the competitor going to the stadium, just walking right by. I don't know, the walker-based system is really what sets the Impressions games apart, and I think makes them a little bit more memorable. They're not just, Sim City in ancient Greece or Egypt or China. And it's something that in my Let's Play of Lethis, I was initially kind of excited for, because it really was based upon this formula. But Lethis really just kind of dropped the ball in other respects, and I've made several complaints in that series, so I won't resurrect them here. But it was a nod to these games, but it just could not stand up to it. And it is disappointing that the Medieval Mayor game got cancelled due to lack of space. Conquered Mycenae. Allies hate you because I conquered an ally. I attacked an ally, so now none of my allies trust me, so now none of them will be my allies. They're on their way back. But how do my vassals feel? They're still loyal, dedicated. So yeah, it's just my remaining allies, which would be Thebes. Slightly annoyed. That's okay, you'll join us soon. But yeah, the Medieval Mayor game would have been a nice little continuation. I guess it's a spiritual successor. It involved one of the developers from these games, but it wasn't built by Impressions, because that no longer exists. But I would have enjoyed playing that and seeing that, I guess. These games are similar in their formula, obviously, but they are all different. They do play quite a bit differently. I mean, Zeus in particular brought a lot of improvements, in my opinion, to Pharaoh, but it is also just a completely different game in how it plays. The temple system is a little bit different to the tribute system in Pharaoh and Emperor. And I appreciate it a lot more, too, because you don't have to remember, oh, God, did I do a festival this month? Or a tribute or anything like that. So, I mean, it brought a lot of things, and just overall, the game has a completely different feeling, because it is pretty tongue-in-cheek. The walkers have humorous dialogue. The color scheme for the game makes it a lot more vibrant and almost cartoony. But at the same time, I feel like this is probably the most relaxed game in the series, just because of that. Just because of the atmosphere and the music and all of that. I think it really comes together. And we're off to the Pythian Games. And while we're ever distracted by the Pythian Games, we're going to go conquer a resentful Thebes. A resentful Thebes who said, all this time we thought we were friends. What the hell? Did we get tribute yet? Tribute from Mycenae. What are you paying me? Jugs of olive oil. A whole 5. Okay. Well, because they're probably not in the greatest mood. Yeah, they're a little bit bitter. So we can give them a big gift of wood. Well, how about that and some bronze? We probably don't have a lot of either. I don't have any bronze, in fact. Onions, no. Marble, though. Definitely give them some marble. Build a temple or two. Whatever. You'll be happy. But speaking of those other games, now, this is the end of the series, and kind of a short series, but I like that. It actually, I think, came to be the proper amount of time given to this series. I do actually feel, and we can look here really at the immensity of this city on the mini-map, I really do feel like maybe I went a little too big with this. Like this whole area right here is completely unnecessary. Because Could have done without that. Really didn't need to have 2 elite housing sections. If I'd done it right, this would have all been contained in here. This extended a little too far as well. We probably could have condensed this into just 3 residential blocks and an industrial and an elite. Half the city is really all that would have been required, but it kind of sprawled. And the sprawling is interesting. Like I said, I've never built something this big, and we started seeing some of the logistics issues with that. Not being able to obviously produce enough goods in walking distance to get there. This mechanic right here doesn't work at all either. The game does not reward you a large distribution center, which again was only thematic, trying to imitate an actual agora in an actual ancient Greek city, but I definitely feel like some of the colonies actually turned out a little bit better just because they were nice, condensed, tight. Smyrna was pretty tight, but it worked, and I kind of like the look of it. This just kind of... It sort of looks neat in a busy visual way, but at the same time it's just a bit much. And like I said, we've got things like this that just don't make a lot of sense, and it was really too big for me to encompass visually and think about how I wanted it to go and turn out. But, we live and learn. So I should have done a smaller map, and I do think that I can still return to this game, because I think that I could try another map with the Poseidon buildings. The Poseidon buildings do add more beautification structures. They also offer more things to build. Just a little variation of the theme. So maybe I'll even just make a custom map, because I've never done that. I've never built inside of the Zeus editor, so maybe I can do something that is really custom tailored to the map, or to the city that I want to build with that. But I've also got now the other games in the Impressions line. So at some point I do plan on... Did we conquer them? They must be on their way back. They're bitter. You can have more marble. In fact, you can have some sculpture too. So I will be doing Pharaoh again, the Cleopatra expansion. I didn't do that in that series, and you may recall I'm not super big of a fan of the Pharaoh game, but maybe things were added in Cleopatra that make it a little bit better. I don't know. I should probably do a little bit of research on that first. But just for completion's sake, we'll go ahead and do that. And I do have every Caesar game now, which includes... How are you walking that... Oh, I get you. I saw him and didn't know where he's coming from. I should probably close that off, actually. There's absolutely no reason for him to walk that way. Is this gonna... Nope. No, it's not. Okay, because he forces his way there. Good. I feel like I should play the full Caesar game series, not just for the completions of all of us being able to see the history of the Impression City Builder series, but also just because Caesar 1 is vastly different to this formula. I mean, take SimCity, the original SimCity, and compare that to even SimCity 2000, and the major difference the isometric view made, and just mechanically how SimCity evolved. I mean, that's pretty much the evolution of these games. So, comparing Caesar 1 to Caesar 3, which many people have played, especially if you played the city building series before, so I feel like it would just be interesting to kind of compare the two there, and I really don't need you to be taking that. In fact, that is the opposite of what I want. So, I mean, there's a lot more of this series to exploit. Unfortunately, I feel like it might be a little bit of a grind for me, just because all of the improvements and things came in the later series. Zeus and Emperor, I think, mechanically are the easiest games to get into. They are very smooth, very simple. Emperor goes back to some of the formula, like I said, of the previous game, so it adds a little bit more complexity to it, but it also does add interface things that are a lot nicer, like the ability to turn off an individual industry. I mean, there's vast improvements that all culminated in the final games, and going back now to the previous ones that, first of all, I'm not so familiar with, and secondly, lack all of those improvements. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a very enjoyable thing to watch. It might just be frustrating for all of us, but definitely something that I feel I'm just going to do anyway, because this city, or excuse me, this channel is really better just doing city building games. Now, I'm not going to focus purely on city building, but I think I'm going to do more. I did try to kind of branch away and have a little bit of variety, but I think that maybe a 2-to-1 ratio of city builders to other type games is probably going to help suit this channel a little bit more, and maybe keep the interest of the viewership. Because we gotta put other things in there. Not everyone wants to watch these, and some of these are just really more for background. And boy, this really came out pathetic compared to some parts of the city that are just all park. But whatever. So that's kind of ideas for down the road. There are many other city building games to play, of course, but I will plan on finishing all of the Impressions games and just kind of see how that works. We appear to have...
This city is like... I searched high and low, and there's not so much as a hut for me to call home. Not even Diogenes' barrel.
We must have found some place, because you're coming back into the city. Huh. I must have... Interesting. Somehow I appear to have lost housing here. Strange. Okay, well, anyway, that's probably enough rambling there. I sort of accomplished what I wanted. Let's maybe see first if... Oh, the game's concluded. Okay. Game in second. That's why everyone's coming back. I thought they were coming here to actually hold the games. They were not. Yeah, a fun little experiment. I still feel like maybe the city that I built in Emperor was more satisfying, although that one I did kind of keep a little bit more uniform, although this one turned out pretty uniform in a lot of places too. I mean, it's completely unnecessary to have the housing variety, and the housing variety is actually very difficult to pin down, thanks in large part to the fact that it really doesn't appear to be the walkers that walk by, but rather the types of culture buildings you have as an underlying mechanic. That's really weird and kind of frustrating, but didn't turn out quite how I'd thought, how I'd imagined it might, but still turned out pretty good, I think. I mean, after all, we managed to pin this down and pare everything down to 6% unemployment, which is better than many of my cities were doing when I was actually doing the full series, the full campaign in my previous Let's Plays. So, everybody's apparently happy. Tax income is absolutely through the roof. And, I mean, I'd just be interested. We've broken 1 million. I'd be interested to see how many digits you could actually get, but that's completely unnecessary, as these onions are from Troy, but thanks. So, anyway, I'm going to end this series here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next Let's Play.